So one of the projects that you did helped me out a lot at Comlux. You came in and what impressed me was you created these converters for us, but it was beyond the converters. You actually came in and I just remember you helped us troubleshoot some things, and that seemed to be typical of going above and beyond of the project at hand.
Well, you know, if you're going to be in the OEM business, you know, the first thing is, you know, that customer has to succeed. You don't have direct contact with their customer, but if you're gonna do anything and be able to produce more of them, be nice if the system worked or if everything worked. And that's what we got into, of course, with the airline stuff, is that this was relatively new to these guys. They had done some digital audio distribution for American Airlines. They had put obviously huge big TV, big screen things and sent that around on tape, using tape players and things like that to play a movie on a plane. But to distribute a whole, you know, multi-channel, started out as 12 and ultimately ended up as 30, 24, 36 channels of things, depending on the airline. You have to make sure that the customer succeeds. And, you know, a lot of times these are big companies, and you know how they work. It's politics first, assign blame, and then you worry about, you know, what you really should have worried about to begin with, because those are the things that preserve your job. But the vision doesn't exist in larger companies for that. You know, it's like attack, but it's attack each other, not, you know, the market. So that's the way things get done. That's how I've been successful doing OEM things. Couldn't do it today. Would it be impossible today, because the world's vision of OEM today means other shores. China, Vietnam, Thailand, Mexico. And whether we can compete, whether we can do a better job, nobody cares. They really don't care, because that's the way somebody else said you ought to do it. So that's the way it's being done. Plus, there's a lot more regulations in today's world. We did some very complex, tightly spec'd, thousands and thousands of boxes that went on airliners. And believe me, when you reverse a tantalum capacitor that goes on an airliner, and an airliner cabin, and it blows up, you hear about it. But we did all of these things. We were never once visited by their QA people. Hughes.
That's remarkable.
Rockwell. The only time we were ever visited was when, years later, they started buying spare boards and regulations had changed. We weren't a qualified supplier, da-da-da-da-da-da. And these guys would come up and have to qualify us on an individual basis. And they'd all walk away after Judy and Sue, you know, waltzed them through the place and showed them how we documented everything and everything is done per this. And we do things better. He said, well, you do things better than we do, and more consistently. But anyway, yeah, back to your point, that's one of the reasons that we did survive quite well with Hughes, which ultimately became Rockwell, and then went on to, we did some things for other companies as well as a result of those successes. But it's because Bertagna came to me and said, you know, if I give you business, he said, you better perform. He said, you have to perform. He said, I can't count on a lot of these guys here. He was very honest with me. And he said, I got other divisions of this company that are huge. He said, but I can't count on them. He said, you've got to perform. This system has to work. So not only did we make a head end and we made tuners, made a lot of those little tuners. John made automatic test systems down, John Messmer, so we could test them real quick and all that. But, you know, I'd sit down there for days on end showing these guys how to look for little, you know, where their system was leaky and things like that. And you know, you'd have to argue with every step of the way because it's this. He did it, you know, nobody's going to take these, you know. No, I'll take the blame, I don't care. I did it, but let's fix it. And I remember one time at Christmas time, I got a call. It was after Dick had left. I got a call from the guy running that division. They said, Mr. Grab had recommended that you come down because we have an American Airlines contract that's about ready to expire, and they're not going to approve it because it's not working right. And I said, well, you know, what's not working? The guy said, he was a guy running the place. His name was Tommy something, Tommy Thompson or something like that. A politician out of Texas. Really, that's really what he was. A Texas political engineer running this thing, and they had a house full of them. So I went down, and I get greeted at the front door by a woman who I had met years earlier by the name of Cindy Tarver. And that was Dick's salesperson. And she was vicious. She was a dynamo. And she said, Tom, don't you listen to any of this about these things. She said, this thing don't work, and we're gonna lose this contract. So she said, it wasn't Fred, it was me that told him. But Fred was behind her, for sure. But she said, you've got to make this thing work, and we've only got a week. American's going to be here. It was just before Christmas. And it was a real disaster. It really was. So, you know, after 2 days of everybody, no, it's this and that. And so there was a guy there from New Jersey who worked for another company. And they did a lot of software and things like that for him. And he was there basically debugging software, but he couldn't get too much further because the system didn't work. So the two of us sat down. We didn't have anybody to report to. And with some hunks of copper, 10 snips, 2 Vietnamese ladies that knew how to put things, solder things, and we went through and grounded this thing so that it would semi-work. We showed them 24 clean channels. Fortunately, we had made this system 24 channels, but they were all frequency agile. So we could avoid some bad areas, and which we did. We took advantage of that. And about 11 o'clock the night before these guys, American guys, were going to show up, we did it. And we had it all running, and she was there. She made, I know that Bertagna told me some years she made $750,000. And she sold a lot of stuff. But she'd walk into Bob Crandall's office at American Airlines. That's how, she was a very interesting woman. But her and her husband were, prior to her being an electronic salesman, they were actors. And they did playwright stuff all over the country. And then when he died, she got into this. But anyway, interesting. That's the way you had to do things, in my opinion, and that's what made it successful. The same success is it, and of course, we made good products. The things worked. I didn't have to worry about showing up and having his head sense something that was a piece of crap.